What can I say? It's springtime. Everything seems to be rolling along. Whether you're on the Delta, whether you're on a Mother Lode Lake, or maybe up at Clear Lake, everyone's catching fish. So let's take a look at a few pictures and then we'll get into the report. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. You're watching In Deep on the Delta, and this is the weekly fishing report for April 9th. I want to start out with a very important message, and it has to do with youth angling. Coming up Sunday, April 19th, the TBF is having their high school state qualifier. This is a large tournament for the high school teams, and they qualify to go to nationals. This is going to be again at April 19th, Sunday, out at Orwood Resort. Now, they're needing a couple of boaters out there to captain for a couple of the teams. If you are available, you can give Tony McKinnon a call at 916-899-0074. That's Tony McKinnon at 916-899-0074. They need a couple of boaters, and what you'll do is you'll go out to Orwood. You will take a couple of the kids out in your boat, drive the boat for them. A lot of times you'll run the trolling motor, and just help the kids out and get them out on the water and see if they can't qualify to go to the nationals. I'll be out there. I'm going to be running a boat as the rescue boat, and hopefully I'll see you guys out there. If you have the opportunity to do this, you'll have a great time. You'll go out, you'll meet some really nice kids. The kids are always very appreciative. And you just get a chance to go out and help out a couple kids get out on the water and have a good time. So check that out and call Tony if you can get out there. I also want to thank everybody who's been watching the channel. You know, it's springtime. This is the time when YouTubers seem to get a lot more views, and my views have been up, and things are going well for the channel. I just want to thank you guys for watching. It helps me to know that you're out there, taking in the information, especially you guys that are out there sending in reports and making comments and giving me all the information that helps me do the report. So I want to thank you guys, and I'm going to have a couple of milestones coming up, hopefully in the next month or so. When I do that, there's going to be some giveaways coming up, probably, I'll say in the next month or so. So thank you guys for watching. Let's start off, we'll talk a little bit about Clear Lake, we'll talk a little bit about the Mother Lode, and then we will really concentrate on what's going on out here on the California Delta. So I talked to Clear Lake Outdoors. Last week they reported that the fishing it was inconsistent. Well, it's got more consistent. Fishing has gotten better in the last week, but they are reporting that they have maybe some concerns with a weather pattern coming in that might affect not only Clear Lake, but it might affect the whole central California area. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But for now, the fishing has been consistent. Guys are still forward-facing sonar, hover strolling, using minnows. They're still picking up some big fish. The guys that are throwing big baits, they're starting to also pick up the big fish. The headhunters are going up there, but they're reporting that they still think it's a little early. The guys that are throwing big baits are getting a lot of fish following, but they're not committing like they should be I'll say in a week or two. So if you're a big bait guy, now is the time to go up there and start prospecting around, because the big fish are coming out and the big bait bite is going to happen. If you're just going up for the weekend, there's plenty of fish to be had, and it's basically junk fishing. Talk about fishing docks. If you're not a forward-facing sonar guy or you're not a big electronics guy, you want to just head out to the docks, and there are thousands of them on Clear Lake. Fish the docks, throw your plastics, LV 500s, deep diving crankbaits, jigs. You're going to catch a ton of fish. It's going to be good fishing. The crappie fishing is still off the hook up there, so now would be a good time to go up and just fish Clear Lake. You want to get up there on a weekday. There are a lot of tournaments and a lot more traffic on the weekends when you get up to Clear Lake. If you have any questions, give Clear Lake Outdoors a call, or stop in the shop and talk to Nino or Dave or one of my friends out there. They'll put you on where the fish are. So that's Clear Lake. I also talked with Aaron up at Central Valley Bait and Tackle. I finally got his number. He's been switching around his numbers, getting his shop numbers and his cell numbers and everything, phone numbers in order. So I was able to talk to Aaron Jones from Central Valley Bait and Tackle. Don Pedro is doing great. They're up there. Basically, he calls it modified junk fishing. They're just holding the bank, running the bank, throwing worms, jigs, anything you want. Jerk baits are catching fish. They're having a good time. A lot of good fish coming out of Don Pedro. If you're going up there, remember that there is no boat inspection. It is a self-inspection. So you want to be, if you're coming from the Delta, be vigilant. Make sure your boat is clean and dry. Do your self-inspection. Get out there and try not to spread golden mussels. And with that, I also talked to my friend Jared, who lives up in Valley Springs. He's been fishing New Hogan Reservoir. New Hogan doesn't get a whole lot of play, but I think it's still $5 or free to get in there. There's no vessel inspection. Again, be vigilant, clean your boat, make sure it's dry. We don't want to spread anything up to New Hogan. But the fishing is going well. He's catching good numbers of fish. Not super big fish, but he's having a good time. So if New Hogan is your bag, maybe you're close to Stockton or something, you don't want to make the drive down to Pedro or up to Maloney's, New Hogan could be something to look at. I've got a friend, Chris, has been going up to New Maloney's. He's banded up there. He's catching good numbers of fish, lots of spots in the 2 to 3 pound class. I think I mentioned last week my son got a 7 while he was fishing with Chris, and there's some good fish going up there. I'll have to get a hold of John Leasty, and I'll get a report from John, and he'll give us a full report on what Maloney's is doing. But everything looks like it's going well. It's springtime. We should have a couple months of really good fishing ahead of us. Now, what's going on the Delta? Well, start off with stripers, and I haven't got a lot of reports this week. I know the guys are out there, they're still fishing. The reports that I have got, it's slowed down a little bit. Guys are not necessarily pulling in limit numbers like they were, I'll say, towards the end of last week and before that. Could be the moon phase, and let's talk a little bit about that, the conditions out here. We had that moon phase drop out. That usually has an effect on the largemouth bass. I'm sure it had an effect on the stripers. And also, starting early this week, I think Monday, Tuesday, we've been getting these really cool mornings. The water temperature has dropped, I'm going to just say roughly from about 70 degrees down to 67 degrees, 2 to 3 degree water temperature drop. And I think that has affected both the stripers and the largemouth bass. If you guys get out and go striper fishing, let me know. I know the guys that are out on Sacramento are still pulling in pretty good numbers of fish. The Central Delta has slowed down a little bit for stripers, and I've seen a big decrease in the guys that are out there fishing for largemouth bass, saying that they are picking up stripers when they pick up a chatterbait, when they pick up a jerkbait or a crankbait. Not as many stripers coming in this last week. It probably has to do with the moon phase. Water clarities, they're right in the Central Delta. It's 5 feet of visibility. I know. Had one friend that was up at Liberty, and the water clarity up there is bouncing around from anywhere from 1 foot to 5 feet, depending on how far up the creeks you go, what creek you're in, so on and so forth. But the fishing up around Liberty has been good also. The fishing down south seems to have taken a little bit of a dip. Now we're going to start talking about largemouth bass. I haven't heard what's going on in the south as far as stripers, but the largemouth bass, I know my last report from Cam Cardoza, the Thursday tournament, which has been taking 20 to 22 pounds to win that tournament. It took 14 pounds to win, 13 was second. I think they had a 14-pound bag and two 13-pound bags. Everyone else was, their weights were very low. Now, if you remember, a couple weeks ago, it was taking 22, 23 pounds to win a tournament for that Thursday tournament. You'll also remember that the BBT had a couple of tournaments back-to-back, Saturday and Sunday, about 10 days ago. And it took, I think, 26 to win one and 23 to win another. So the tournament weights have dropped off. And as far as the largemouth bass goes, I think that definitely has to do with, we lost our moon phase. We've had some tides that have been not real conducive to bass fishing, low coefficient, so we're not getting a lot of movement. And as far as I've seen, when that tide's not moving, slack tide, the fishing has been very tough. So we're going to, in the next week or so, start to get better tidal coefficients. We're going to have that new moon phase coming in, and I think the fishing's going to pick up. So what's going on with the largemouth bass? Everybody is still catching fish, but it has been tougher and tougher to catch those fish. And I've been out, I think I was out almost every day last week. And I have been seeing, as this cooler weather comes in, the small fronts that have come in, the fish have really acted differently. They're not as aggressive, the bigger fish are not as prevalent, and the smaller fish are not as aggressive, and you're not catching as many fish. Now, I didn't talk with Christian this week, but I talked with my friend David Lee. Dave was out with Christian. They did very well. They put a nice bag together. I saw the pictures. It looked like it was probably a 20-pound plus bag. But David mentioned that Christian had to do a lot of running. They went from the Central Delta all the way out north to as far as you can go north, basically, to catch those fish. And that's Christian's way. He's running around, he knows the tides, he's using his knowledge of the Delta to be where he needs to be at the right time. Most guys aren't going to run around like Christian to get that bag. They did well, but David said they did have some dry spots during the day where they went for an hour or two without a bite. You pick up 20 pounds by the end of the day, you probably can put that behind you. Also been talking with Joey Price from Priceless Fishing. I got some pictures from some of Joey's clients that he's been out with. Joey's been doing well, but again, he's saying it is not easy. He is fishing the Central Delta, pretty much south of the channel. And this is going to be important because I've been fishing the Central Delta north of the channel. So Joey's been fishing south, Mildred Island, in that area, all points in between, we'll say from Victoria Cut all the way to the channel. I've been fishing the north of the channel and up around, through Whites, through Bishop Cut, through Honker Cut, all the way up to, close to Terminus. And this is going to be real important because one of the things that Joey is seeing is all of his fish, he says, are pretty much spawn fish. A lot of them have spawned out. Some of them are still, staging. The fish that I have seen north of the channel, they've all been pretty healthy. I'm not seeing any signs of active spawn. I'm seeing signs of late pre-spawn, meaning the males are fat, they're full of milk. The females are fat that I'm catching. They're in the shallows, they're pairing up, but I'm not seeing a lot of beds, and I'm not seeing any fry north of the channel. And this could be important for you guys that are coming out, maybe fishing a tournament or just fishing the weekends. Fish in the Central Delta are probably farther along in their spawn than they are in the northern part of the Delta. especially if you get out to Mildred Island or some of the flooded islands that are out there that have a little less water movement, a little more spawning area. Those fish are actively spawning. Joey's picking his fish up primarily at low tide. I'm picking my fish up at high tide. Joey has been throwing a lot of worms, a lot of drop shot, and really just working, unlike Christian, who's moving long distances. Joey's moving around, but he's staying around the central delta, and he's trying to pick apart places. So, you know, whether you're fishing with Joey, whether you're fishing with Christian, whether you decide, you know, who you go out with, all doing different things, but they're all catching fish, and they're all saying the same thing. It's not easy. They are working hard for their fish. The people that I talk to at the ramp and the weekend anglers that I'm getting reports from, they have all, you know, a lot of them struggled a little bit this past week, and catching, you know, going out for 5 or 6 hours, catching 3 or 4 fish, or maybe they get lucky and put a decent fish in the boat. You saw the introduction. There's a lot of guys that are catching that one big fish that happens to be in the wrong place at the right time, or the right place at the wrong time, however you want to put it. But it's been a bit of a struggle for a lot of the weekend anglers and the guys that may not be willing to move around as much or fish as hard as somebody that's really hard-headed. I have definitely found that. Here are the things that I've seen. The morning bite is starting to perk off. I still prefer the evening bite if you're going to go out for a change of light bite. The evenings have been better. I think it was Tuesday I got out, and I've been out about a half an hour before daylight. I seem to always catch 1 or 2 fish before the sun comes out. Then there's a short bite window. My last couple of morning trips have not been as good as they were 5, 6, 7 days ago, and I believe it's because of these cold nights. The fish just aren't active, and you could see it. The fish are smaller, they're not there in the numbers, and when they're striking topwater baits, they just aren't coming up with the ferocity that they had when that water temperature was 70 degrees. I picked up some fish on rats. I'm trying to get a video together for Sack Pig Bait Company. I've got a couple of rats that Michael is high on, and I'm catching fish on these small rats, but only kind of before dark. As the sun comes up, I'm throwing, I think, a Depth's Pulse Cod. I'm throwing the Bubble Walker, Rico's, small poppers. I have not been throwing fast-moving baits like a buzz bait or a whopper plopper. They're all been kind of walking baits and slower moving baits, and the fish are hitting these baits on pauses. That's why I haven't gone into, you know, real reaction type topwater fishing. The rats that I'm throwing, I'm fishing them real slow, and they're basically a wake bait. They're just moving along slow. I'll stop them, moving along slow. And when the fish are coming up, and especially the bigger males and the smaller females that are in that, I'll say 3 to 5, 5.5 pound range, they have been extremely aggressive coming up when they come up. It's just not in the numbers that I would like to see. Now, after that sun comes up and the temperature starts to rise, it gets tough, and my number one bait is still a green pumpkin worm. There are a few people catching fish on chatterbaits and faster moving baits. But if you want to catch fish, a worm better be part of your arsenal. Keep that chatterbait on. Keep some guys are throwing some crankbaits. Some guys are throwing some lipless, ripping them through the grass, and you'll catch some fish. My last, or my weekly tip would be, as the fishing has got tougher out here the last couple of days, I have been looking for new water, and what I have been doing is running around and fishing stuff that I just haven't fished in years or that I never fish. And a couple days ago I started running some very simple looking rock banks just to see what was in there. I'll pull up, I'll put the trolling motor on high, and I'll run that bank just to see if I can see bait, what the subsurface vegetation looks like, so on and so forth. And if I get lucky and I catch a fish, or I see some fish, that gives me, you know, the confidence to stay on those banks. What I have found, there are fish all over. the rock banks that look like nothing, as long as there is a trough there, as long as there's some clean, healthy vegetation, I believe a lot of these fish are in there, and they can spawn either on the rock or at the base of the rock where the rock stops and you have some hard bottom, and then usually there's just a little bit of space in there before you start getting the subsurface vegetation growing. That is a good place for fish to spawn. They're hard to see because a lot of times they're down in the little holes and things in the vegetation. But don't pass up these stupid looking rock walls, especially if you see 6 tule fronds standing up, or just a small, I'm not going to call it a tule island, but just a patch of tules. Those are magnets on these rock walls, and what I eventually started doing is run the wall very quickly, keep an eye on everything, keep an eye on in front of what I'm doing, and if I see a log, a tree, or any type of cover that will hold fish, I know that that thing has a fish on it because those are the magnets on these rock walls. I'll slow the boat down way in advance. I'll make a long cast with a worm, and generally I'm catching a fish at each one of those little magnets. If the first cast I throw out, I catch a small buck, I make sure I get that fish out of there as quick as I can, release it, don't overcrowd that area, and I fish for the female. It's not working every time, but has worked a couple of times, and if it works a couple of times a day, for me, with those bigger fish doing that, I'll take that any day of the week, especially when I'm fishing areas where during times when the bite is not on, and those are kind of like bonus fish to me. So try that if you get a chance. If you get frustrated enough where you want to get out of your comfort zone and start looking around, I think you'll catch a few more fish. Again, I want to thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned. I think the fishing, as this next moon phase builds, this is going to be the one where I'll say a bigger majority of the fish are actually going to come in and spawn. We're going to start to see more fry. We're going to see bigger fish coming in, and the fishing's just going to get better. But it's going to take a week or so for that moon phase to kick in and the tides to start kicking in. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the river. Good luck.